Thank you all for the support on our Tears of the Kingdom videos. I have partnered with Zone to give away no less than 500 pro-grade microSD cards for your Nintendo Switch worldwide. Just click the link below, which applies a $40 discount to any Zone SD card. Add the 64GB or 32GB card to the cart and proceed to the checkout. That's it. The code counts to all sizes, so you can use it for a media card for a pretty hefty discount. But that's not all. We will select 10 who get the 128GB or above cards, or any other product from the site to get a free Nintendo Switch Online subscription and a secret surprise. By using my code REALM, you also get 15% off this Tears of the Kingdom case, 8-bit dose adapter to play Zelda with any controller, and this golden Zelda Grip Plus stand for hours of play. Finally, 1500 likes on this video unlocks 300 additional SD card coupons to the 500, so be sure to like. Ganondorf, and none more than this game's Kouma and Kotake, inscribed on his weapons and phantom Ganons. With it, we can wonder where we will see them and their impact on this Ganondorf. In Ocarina of Time, the twin Gerudo sister witches were over 370 years old when Ganondorf was born as the first Gerudo male in 100 years in the middle of the Hyrulean Civil War. They then raised him as surrogate mothers and made him the king that would bring Gerudo out of the misery of the desert. Loyal to the end, they were the antagonists and boss of the Spirit Temple, and later on in the timeline, a different or potentially the same Twinrova were responsible for the botched revival of Ganon. In other words, right here we have the ultimate DLC subjects, standing in contrast to Breath of the Wild's final trial, Monk Mas Koshia. Naturally, this thread is a difficult one to pull off, as Kouma and Kotake of the distant past might no longer be alive, unless they have been preserved just like Monk Mas Koshia was, but this time through rituals and dark magic, meaning that they might be truly terrifying when we finally reach them. We have to remember that much like the Sheikah, the Gerudo have also been divided into loyalists and rebels, those loyal to their king and those who saw him as a threat. So instead of following green shrines in Tears of the Kingdom of the blue ones in Breath of the Wild, why not have red ones in a DLC leading to Kouma and Kotake, and on the way more details about Ganondorf's life. You know, before Zelda's arrival, and her becoming the prime witness of the Gerudo King's transformation into the Demon King, giving us scenes from his earlier life and rule over the Gerudo with Kouma and Kotake by his side, his potential sisters. Yes, that could be the twist this time. Since he was lurking in the shadows of Hyrule Castle and creating an imposter Zelda in order to assassinate Sonia, Ganondorf, and who taught him this dark magic? Potentially Kouma and Kotake. Right here we have the ultimate lore conclusion to not only Tears of the Kingdom, but Breath of the Wild as well. And what did the cutscenes of the Champions Ballad focus on? Recruiting the champions to fill this role, and finally the ceremony that made them champions with a commemorative photograph. Well, here we could see Ganondorf's rise to power and how his genius kept it on top until he was distracted and ended up being sealed with Raru. From a child turned warlord before the founding of the Kingdom of Hyrule to scheming against this new threat to his tribe's militaristic way of life, then becoming the Demon King of Darkness and confronting the King of Light and his sages. The potential for such DLC is immense, as it will fit perfectly with the Amiibo coming this holiday, as both Zelda and Ganondorf will be present in this story, inscribed by none other than Kouma and Kotake. Let's remember, the nature of the memories of the Champions Ballad were different from the images in Breath of the Wild's main game. For one, outside of the final memory, Link wasn't a part of them, as he first became Zelda's appointed knight who would guard her life after the ceremony in the castle's sanctum. Secondly, they focus on the relationship between Zelda and the champions. While here in Tears of the Kingdom, we could have the story from Ganondorf's perspective, one that doesn't change the final confrontation of this game, and his monologue apart from one little exception, Kouma and Kotake, who we might fight in a spiritual or flesh form. So how would such DLC work? It could be through traces left by Kouma and Kotake to commemorate the lost king and keep the memory of him preserved. Trials hidden and scattered in places associated with their king across Hyrule. Back then, the land was a wild one, and had just recently seen the end of hostilities among the tribes. The main reason behind Ganondorf's Molduga attack on the first capital of Hyrule. Now what if instead of playing as Zelda, who joined very late to this party, we play and see the cutscenes from Ganondorf's perspective. Completing trials leading to scenes showing how Ganondorf's admiration for Kuma and Kotake came to be. Duality as we play as Link, but here as Ganondorf. First learning how to control him, and then going through different types of gameplay as him. Starting with combat and leading up to the failed invasion, then giving us some stealth sections in and around the first Hyrule Castle and Temple of Time on the Great Plateau, all eventually leading to the trap of imposter Zelda and the one punch against Sonya, finally fighting the imprisoning war against the sages and Ron, all leading towards a temple prepared by Kuma and Kotake, who we face them, or another icon from Ocarina of Time 25 years after its release, the Iron Knuckle, upon which defeat we obtain the ultimate Gerudo treasure, the Mirror Shield. Not the Zonai one fused to a shield in the build-up to and the inside of the Lightning Temple, but the real deal. Turning the circle complete and giving us the story of Ganondorf that we missed, but where Princess Zelda also takes part in, but rather where her appearance is seen as a pesky one, especially after Queen Sonya teaches her to control her recall power, all eventually leading to the King of Darkness being sealed by the King of Light. A story that can be told through 5 cutscenes and gameplay sequences, just like the Champion's Ballad, but which will be much more impactful as it will be the story of Ganondorf's first rise and fall, and that late on in his current rise and soon before his fall. Are there issues with such a DLC? Absolutely, as it would most likely not give us more Sky Islands. Instead, it would have to be focused on the surface and the depths, as these are the 2 layers that the Gerudo were focused on in the distant past. Most likely, a Temple of Kuma and Kotake would be in the depths, unless by some miracle we get Sky Islands over the Gerudo Desert proper, as this area has notoriously few Sky Islands. Perhaps this is a way to combine the 3 layers, have them in a few territories of the surface, but instead represented in the 3 layers, following Ganondorf's and his dear Kuma and Kotake's path, as the sky is the layer of preservation in Tears of the Kingdom, where Zelda restores the Master Sword, Minoru awaits Link in the Purapad, and where the Temple of Time and the Sky Shrines are being kept safe. A twist, surface, depths and sky, only in places where Ganondorf had been up to his ceiling. So Gerudo, the Path to and the Great Plateau itself, and finally Central Hyrule. But this is just on the surface, as the imprisoning war proper naturally took place in the depths, and then ultimately ended with Ganondorf's awakening and fall into the deepest depths, and Link's second awakening on Great Sky Island. Now here's a little idea. What if the reason we have certain minions of Ganondorf on Great Sky Island is because the island hides an additional Gerudo secret, one that Zelda, Minoru and the Royal Chamberlain were unaware of in the aftermath of the imprisoning war. Kuma and Kotake, a lot of potential and a way to conclude the story of Ganondorf, Zelda and Link before moving on to the next Zelda game. Keep in mind that content-wise, Tears of the Kingdom was completed a year prior to its May 12, 2023 release. The only work left was ironing out new mechanics and glitches which did not apply to the landscape and content department of the Zelda team, meaning that there's been plenty of time to work on concepts of DLC in the meantime for the Zelda team. And what started this whole sequel in the first place? Breath of the Wild's DLC 3 tied to Ganondorf, which was first teased with this concept art in 2017 of Ganondorf on a Sky Island. Naturally, he never ended up exploring these, but we don't know if the same was the case for Kotake and Kuma, the names on his weapons. I'm just saying that this entire game's story focuses on 2 individuals, Ganondorf and Zelda, and their aims for Hyrule, hence the 2 Amiibo. And who are they? The Demon Dragon of Darkness and the Light Dragon. In Breath of the Wild's main quest, we saw the 100-year-old memories of Link's courage. In Tears of the Kingdom, we saw Zelda's distant past memories of wisdom through the Dragon Tears, which leaves us with Ganondorf and his memories of power, but with 1 or 2 containing Zelda. You simply cannot reuse this map a 3rd time. For 1, we're ready to move on. And secondly, Ganondorf as the Demon Dragon ended up in this explosion. It is over. The time has come for this Link and Zelda to finally live a proper life in peace, together and in friendship with the new sages. Hence, any memories of Ganondorf must be in the DLC, set after the final temple in the game, but before the final battle. the Construct Factory, and the Spirit Temple, just like the Champion's Ballad was set after the 4 Divine Beasts, but before storming the Sanctum of Hyrule Castle. This is the perfect recipe for DLC, the final chapter to understand Ganondorf fully through his memories before we confront him yet again in the depths and then in the sky, concluding our journey with this game and collection of games unless we get a Hyrule Warriors imprisoning game years from now. The Ganondorf and Zelda Tears of the Kingdom amiibo are scheduled for this holiday, and we all know what also came with the Game Awards last time we had a new Zelda game collecting awards. The release of the final DLC, the Champion's Ballad. Let's also not forget that the distant past Gerudo Sage of Lightning was there in Gerudo while Ganondorf was king, so through his story we might also learn a thing or two about her, plus the other sages who confronted the Demon King. You see, Ganondorf's story DLC could cover everything, including the mystery of this game's Kotake and Koumi. But what do you think? Will we get Tears of the Kingdom DLC, and will it focus on the life and memories of Ganondorf prior to his sealing? Sound off in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, and most of all, subscribe with notification bell on, as we want to get to 330,000 subscribers before beginning the push to 350,000. And there, naturally another giveaway, as we'll do for each new 50,000 subscribers. Last but not least, a big thanks to you who watched until the end, and to all our patreon.com/commonrealm patrons. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.